Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. Today we're going to be talking about discrimination. What are we talking about here? We're going to be talking about gender and ethnicity inequality. And I got an email here that I'm going to read you asking a question about that. So I got this question from Sally, and Sally says, "Hello, Mr. John. For the past few days, I have seen your YouTube videos on YouTube, and they are wonderful, full of knowledge and encouragement." Cool, appreciate that. They're just some of the best materials I've come across, but I do have some worries about going into this job field. Because it's more white male dominated profession, I'm not sure how well I will fare in this job market because I am a minority and a female. Even though I'm born and raised in America, I'm not sure if I will ever get a job, and if I do, will it underpay me because of my ethnicity and gender? I'm only saying this is because of the news articles that are saying it's harder for those people to get jobs, right amount of pay, and going up in the company. I'm not just talking about big companies, but small ones as well. How would someone like myself fare in this type of situation? Thank you for reading my email, and I would love your input on this. Also, if I have offended you in any way, I'm sorry. It was not my intention to do so. Again, thank you and have a wonderful day. So, what do I think about this topic? Well, I'm going to answer the question. I do want to point you to a video first, though, on white male privilege. I did this video on white male privilege and why I don't think it's such a thing, or why I think a lot more credence is given to it than is warranted. So I encourage you to check that out if you're interested on some really my in-depth thoughts on the topic. But I want to address this email specifically and address some of the concerns here and address some of the things that are kind of interesting about what goes around when we claim certain things, or we bias people in a certain way. So in this particular situation, Sally has not even tried to get a job. Okay, she's worried, and you know, I'm not blaming Sally. Sally has a good reason to be worried, but she's worried that perhaps because she is not she's a minority, and because she's female, that she's going to have a hard time getting a job as a software developer, and that maybe she won't be paid well, and maybe she'll be discriminated against, and she won't rise up in the company as well, and so maybe she doesn't want to join this field. So this is pretty interesting, right? Because this is true, right? This is Sally. Sally didn't make this up. I didn't make this question up, right? She emailed me. She's legitimately concerned. It's a good question. She emailed me at 3:02 a.m. So she's really upset about this shit, okay? So what happened here, right? She didn't actually even try and get a job, but she read a bunch of news articles, right? So there's a lot of people talking about how it's unequal pay and discrimination and all this stuff in the tech industry, and it's a white male dominated field. It may be true that it's a white male dominated field. I'm not going to deny that part of it, but the point is that she doesn't have any firsthand experience, but she's been biased to believe this. And so what's likely to happen in this case is, if you have this kind of thought process, if you're thinking that you're going to go into a field and you're going to be discriminated against, right? I've talked about this before in some videos, but if you think that these things are going to happen to you, they're more likely to happen, right? Victims are more likely to be victimized. It's a sad but true fact of society, of our society. It happens, right? There's a lot of psychological reasons we could talk about why that happens, but setting someone up with this bias and this mentality, this is why, one of the reasons why I'm against sort of pointing out these things and making a big deal of things like this, right? So I'm a realist. I understand that discrimination happens. I understand it happens in the workplace. I understand that it happens based on race, it happens on gender, but it doesn't happen as much as some people make it out to be. And when we constantly are tooting that horn, what we're doing is we're setting it up so that we're actually discouraging people, right? Because here in this case, Sally is actually discouraged from entering the tech field. But I would tell her that the workplace for women in the tech field is actually in many cases more friendly than it is to guys. And I know this sounds a little bit weird, but this is the truth, right? I have said this multiple times, that I would much rather work next to a nice looking, nice smelling woman than a smelly, sweaty, fat guy, right, as a software developer. I mean, this is just true. Most people would, right? So I'm not saying that, you know, all guys are sweaty, smelly software developers, but I'm just saying it wouldn't be more pleasant if you have two equivalent people that have equivalent experience and capabilities. Wouldn't you rather sit next to the flowery smelling woman than the, you know, the fart smelling guy? I just saying, right? Just saying, okay? So there's definitely some advantages, and to some degree, I think that the discrimination has reversed and gone the other way, where people are so careful to try and not discriminate that they're actually more likely to hire a woman, especially if she's a minority woman. So I think there's probably some advantages that you would have as a woman, as a minority in tech. I've done a video on women in tech, I believe. I actually have a chapter in my new book that's coming out. I'll point you to this as well, that called the Complete Software Developer's Career Guide, where I actually talk about women in tech specifically. And I made this chapter because several women in tech wanted me to write that chapter. I didn't really want to write the chapter, but they said, hey, can you write a chapter in this snippet? Like, we need to know this stuff. So I gave you my honest information about that, and I think that would be valuable if you're concerned about this. But essentially, and if you look at it also, right, you know, Sally, not to pick on Sally, but Sally ended her email and she said, if I've offended you in any way, I'm sorry. It was not my intention to do so. You know what? Fuck it if you've offended me. Who cares, right? We're so careful. We're so concerned with offending people, right, that we're offending people, right? And what I mean by that is, like, who cares? Like, people are going to be offended, right? There is going to be racism, there is going to be discrimination, there is going to be that stuff going on, but ultimately, you've got to live in this world, and you have to live in this current society, and whatever it is, and you've got to make the choices to make the best of it for you. Yeah, you know, it's okay to be upset when bad things happen, especially when they're blatantly, obviously bad, right? I think there's some degree of indignation that is okay, but then you got to get over that shit, and you got to get over it quickly and say, okay, I don't approve of that, or that's not good, or that's not cool, or that sucks, but what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do in my life? What am I going to do to overcome this? So this is what I'd say to you, Sally. Ignore this. Ignore your bias about this. What you believe to be true may not even be true. In fact, like I said, from my experience, from the people I know, and I coach a lot of software developers, I talk to a lot more software developers than most do, right? So I have a pretty broad set of experience. I get hundreds of emails a day, okay? So I have a pretty good idea of what's going on and the pulse from people all over the world, all kinds of ethnicities, all kinds of races, and I would say that you probably are actually going to be in a beneficial position being in the US, being non-white, and being a female in the tech industry. I honestly think that you're going to have an easier time finding a job, that you're probably going to have an easier time getting a good salary and raise, and that this is not going to be a problem for you, is because so many people are bending over backwards to, quote, not offend people and to be politically correct. There's a ton of opportunities. Now, will you ever encounter any kind of prejudice or racism or discrimination? Probably. Probably that will happen. That's just, I mean, it doesn't really matter who you are, you're going to encounter that to some degree. A lot of the white males in my audience that are watching these videos, they know that they're like, what the fuck? I get this all the time. Now it's like, you know, it's almost like reverse. It's like, if you're a white male, you're automatically like promoting rape culture and all of this stuff, and you're automatically a privileged asshole. Okay, so without you even opening your mouth, right? You're being judged totally by the color of your skin. Man, how does that feel, right? It's like, so everyone can probably relate to some degree of being discriminated in some way, even if it's just on the clothes you wear. I mean, how many times does that happen, right? Heck, even just on this YouTube channel, like, I'm wearing a hat, like, oh, you fucking disrespect me because you're wearing a hat in a YouTube video trying to teach me stuff. What an asshole. It's just, this is the way that life is. So I would just encourage you, Sally, don't come in with the preconceived notion. Assume that you're going to succeed, assume that you're going to do great, and just give it the best that you have and try to present your best foot forward in the skills that you have and the ability that you have as a software developer. Don't worry about this stuff, and realize that even if you are discriminated against, you can't really control that. You can not ultimately control what people do. Even if we legislate and put into law, and there is laws against discrimination, that doesn't really stop someone. If someone really doesn't like you, or they really want to discriminate against some group of people, they're going to do it. They're just going to do it. I mean, could you not, I mean, think about it from your own perspective. Could you not discriminate against someone, and even if there's a law against it, and hide that and make up some lame excuse of why you didn't hire them or why you didn't give them a raise? You could, of course, right? Anyone can. Anyone with half a brain could do that. So you can't really control that. You can't force people to not be racist. You can't force people to not be sexist, right? You can't force people to not be bigots. You can't do that. But what you can do yourself, and this is where I would focus, Sally, is I would focus on what you can do. What you can do is you can present your best foot forward. You can make sure that you're better than the guys and the white males that you're competing against, right? That's going to give you the best advantage. And you can come in without a chip on your shoulder. Because if you're looking for prejudice, if you're looking for racism, if you're looking for sexism, you will find it, and it'll be more likely to happen to you. Again, not victim blaming here, because there is no victim, because we shouldn't have the victim mentality, because life happens and shit happens and all kinds of stuff everyone has to go through in life. Some people have harder lives than others. Yes, I guarantee you that's true. But it's still up to you to make the best of what you have. So that's what I encourage you to do, Sally. Ignore the news, ignore what people say, assume you're going to win, assume you're going to succeed, and go into this. And you'll find that there is a community of people that embrace, that want to help you succeed. I am part of that. I totally want to see, I would say women in tech succeed, but that's not true. I want to see everyone. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're black or white or Mexican or whatever it is, or Chinese. I don't care about any of that shit. I want to see you, whoever you are, whatever you are. I want to see you succeed and be successful, not just in your career, but in life. I want to see you grow and become the best version of yourself, because when we are all focused on that, when we're focused on improving ourselves and helping everyone else, and we forget about all the shit that's wrong that's happening to us, because there's plenty of that. We could focus on that all day, on discrimination and racism and all the bad stuff, because there's plenty of it, okay? Well, but when we focus on improving ourselves and helping others, when we go there, it raises the bar for everyone. It helps everyone. That's the best that we can do. So yes, I'm not stupid. I know that shit happens, but I choose to focus on the positive. I choose to see the positive, to encourage the positive people. And if you have that attitude in life, if you go into this field with that attitude, even if bad stuff happens to you, you're going to be successful. I promise you'll be successful. And you know, this is, I'm speaking the truth here. I hope that you can understand that. There's going to be haters that are going to hate this and disagree and whatever. But you know what? That's their choice. See, we all make a choice in life, and I hope that you choose the positive road, Sally. And I wish you the best, honestly. Hopefully this helps you. If it did, if you think this will help someone, obviously share the video. And if you haven't subscribed already, click that subscribe button. If you click the bell, you'll get immediate updates whenever I release a video, and you won't miss any. So click that bell. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.